Andre Iguodala believes that Rasheed Wallace would be a top 5 player in the NBA today. Now, whether I agree or disagree with that, I disagree with that. It got me thinking, which player from the Going to Work squad from 2004 championship team would be the best? Which one would be the best player if they were dropped in today's NBA? We'll talk about that in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you have not already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast. We're on our road to 5,000 subscribers. I'd really appreciate it if you're listening to this on the podcast platforms. Still, head over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. But you guys can also leave a 5-star review if you listen to this on Apple Podcasts, down all the way at the bottom, or over on Spotify as well. You can leave a 5-star review. Do that if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. So you may be wondering, why are we talking about the Going to Work squad? Why are we talking about this hypothetical? While be it fun, why are we talking about that instead of the Summer League or current Piston stuff? I don't think any of you guys needed to, or even, I don't know how many of you guys actually even did watch last night's Summer League game because no one played. It was all the guys on the floor besides Jalen Duren are going to be on the squad this upcoming season. No point to watch it. It's not fun. No one wanted to watch it. No one had fun watching it, and no one's going to have fun listening to someone talk about it. And I don't want to talk about it. Just go ahead and just erase that from your memory. So it is what it is. That's why we're not talking about Summer League. So before we get into this topic, though, about which player from the 2004 team would be the best in the NBA today, I just want to say, give you guys a little thing to do for me. Go in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill what you guys would want to hear talked about over the next few weeks on the podcast. I was planning on talking about some of the results from Summer League with Jaden Ivey, Killian Hayes, Isaiah Stewart, Saban Lee, Isaiah Livers, all these guys, but they look like they're already done. So if you guys have anything you guys want to talk about, let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill, and we'll be sure to talk about it. All right. So anyways, which player from the Pistons 2004 championship team would be the best player in today's NBA? Not which one would get better, because I'm not going to tell you guys who I picked yet, but let's just say, Ben Wallace is a Hall of Famer. He may just get a little tiny bit better, but he still could be the best player out of all of them. We're not weighing which one gets better from where they already were, just which flat out would be the best player in today's NBA. And the way we're going to do this, we're going to start with guys that we're going to start at the bottom of the list, ones I don't think would be the best player, and we'll work our way up. So make sure you stay tuned for the whole podcast, and you'll see the answer at the very end. So the first person I want to talk about is Tayshaun. I don't think Tayshaun would be the best player out of all the guys, and we're only doing the starting lineup, by the way. I don't think Tayshaun would be the best player out of these guys. I do think Tayshaun Prince would be incredibly valuable, and I think there could be an argument to be made that he could be an argument for one of the most valuable ones out of all of them. I think he probably would slide in right around. To be honest, I think he probably would be higher than Rip, and then he's in an argument with all the other guys because he is a long wing, a tall wing, defensive-minded, would be able to hit a spot-up three, and did all the things that these two-way wings, these guys who play the 3 position, the 4 position, the guys that can switch out on the perimeter, guards, play down low, or maybe not so much keep him down low because he was a little bit scrawny, even though he was strong for his size. You get what I'm saying. He was able to switch out on forwards, guard them in the perimeter, get into the basket. He was also able to switch out on guards. So I think he'd be able to play small ball 4 for many teams in today's NBA. I think that would make him incredibly valuable in today's NBA. So I'm not saying that he wouldn't get better. I think Tayshaun, and to be honest, I think Tayshaun probably was decently valued at that time. He was on the Olympic team. So I think teams knew that even though he wasn't putting up monster numbers, they knew how incredibly valuable he was and how good of a player he was back then. But I do think that he would probably be talked about even more now if he played in today's NBA because of the things I listed. He incredibly long wingspan, defensive-minded wing who could play the 3 and the 4 position, guard multiple positions on the floor. If you watch the NBA at all outside the Detroit Pistons, and I encourage a lot of you guys, by the way, to do that. I've been meaning to say that on the podcast. I encourage a lot of you guys to go outside and watch film outside the Pistons so you guys understand what good teams look like and what better players look like, so you know what the Pistons should be dealing with here. I feel like that's something that not a lot of local teams or local fans do, whether it be in Detroit or any other team. They don't watch much outside of their team, so then they don't really understand like what actually is a great player and what actually is like schemes that are run and what you have to have, etc. So I'd encourage you guys to do that. Either way, if you watch other teams, heck, even just the playoffs or the finals, Boston, Golden State, keys to winning it. Obviously, Golden State won because they had Steph Curry, but along with that, they had Andrew Wiggins, a long wing who was able to switch across positions and play defense and play a good role offensively. And he knew how to play the right way, which is great saying of Andrew Wiggins. I don't think people would be saying that about him. But he did that in the finals and throughout the playoffs for the Golden State Warriors. So that was valuable. You go on the other side. You got Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Grant Williams, all kinds of just big wings who are able to switch out on guys across their entire roster. You go throughout all the contenders, dude. You go to Miami, you got Jimmy Butler, PJ Tucker. You go to Milwaukee, you got Giannis, obviously. You got Chris Middleton. All these teams, these elite teams, have these kind of long wing defenders, guys who are able to be something a little bit on offense, but are able to be very versatile defensively and switch on basically everything but centers. And even some of them can switch on centers. I don't think Tayshaun would want to be guarding centers, but you guys get my point. So I don't think Tayshaun would be the best player out of everybody in today's NBA, but I do think that he would be incredibly valuable. I think a lot of teams, almost every team in the NBA, would want him on their team. I think he could maybe sneak in an all-star bid one of these years if he played in today's NBA. But outside of that, I think he would just be a really, really, really good role player, one of the best role players on a starting lineup in the league, but not better than some of his teammates from that 04 squad. Because I think these other guys could have been doing something pretty nasty in the NBA today. And we're going to talk about that in the next segment. Find out who I have right after Tayshaun when we come back. But first, I have to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. Why endure often pointless and seemingly intimidating questioning, like is your Odyssey an LX, and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand that their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home or in your pocket by using your phone. Save time and money when you're using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? For example, a Honda Odyssey fuel pump is $353 from a chain store, but only $216 from Rock Auto. Rock Auto is a family business that's been doing it for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every single customer, and they have everything you can need, from tail lamps to motor oil and even a new carpet. And I know they have brake parts because my fiance ordered from Rock Auto just the other day because her car needed some new brakes. And she went to Rock Auto. You know what she did over at Rock Auto? She went to their How Did You Hear About Us box and she put Locked On Pistons. That's something that all of you guys can do. If you go and explore their easy-to-use website today, you can go to rockauto.com and write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. It's the best way to support it, and you're doing Locked On a little bit of a favor. So, amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts that your car will ever need. rockauto.com. So I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you have not already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast on our road to 5,000 subscribers, to continuing to show Locked On. We're the best and fastest growing fan base at the Locked On Network. Funny story real quick I want to say to you guys. So I went for an interview yesterday, and literally the first thing for a job interview, and first thing the manager says to me when I come in, they're like, dude, did anyone ever tell you that you look literally just like Klay Thompson? And it's like, I can't escape it, man. I can't escape it. Whether it's you guys on YouTube watching, go in the comment section down below, comparing me to every light-skinned dude the Pistons play with curly hair, whether it's you guys listen to podcast platforms, going to my DMs, or tweeting at me saying, cool, we found this guy that looks like you, or if it's just random people on Twitter telling me I look like some dude on the Blazers Summer League team. You guys won't leave me alone or give me a break. I can't escape it. I'm getting compared to everybody. It's I can't escape it anywhere I go, man. It's crazy. But anyways, I wanted to share that story right there. I have a little fun with that. All right, so the next player that I have. So I want to make sure I make this clear too. All of these players I think would be incredibly valuable and would be better in today's NBA. I don't think any of them, actually there's one that I think could cause some thought about whether he actually would be better now. But I think all the other guys would definitely be better in today's NBA. And the guy I'd put right after Tayshaun Prince is Richard Hamilton. Now, I put this question out on Twitter before I recorded the podcast, and I wanted to see what everyone was feeling a little bit before I started recording. And I saw a few people thinking Rip could be at the top of this list. And this is the problem that I have with that. One, I think these other guys would be better. I think these other guys were better players then and would probably be better players now because of how versatile they were. And two, I think part of what would have to, in order for Rip to be better in this NBA, in order for Rip to be able to reach his full potential in this NBA, which I think he could be even like way better in today's NBA, in order for that to happen, it would have to take a mentality switch with Rip. Like Rip would have to change the way he plays. He wouldn't be able to do what he did back then because if you want to be honest, it wasn't the most efficient way of playing basketball, and he wasn't very efficient doing it. So like before I started recording the podcast, I actually went back. So Synergy, you guys know I always love using Synergy charts and going back. And luckily, they go back as far as the 2004-2005 season. Now, this isn't his best season, whatever, but it's cool that they could go back that season. So I was just like, oh, let's pull up each one of them and just get a quick look at it because I was interested in it. And Rips was the one that scared me or freaked me out the absolute most. I did not expect to see this. They had Rip as an overall offensive player. They have him in the 12th percentile rating as poor. And you sit there and you wonder, like, no way, Rip Hamilton was a great offensive player. Why is that? And again, these numbers don't say that. I'm not saying that these numbers should make you believe Rip was bad offensively. No, he was good offensively, but you'll see the point I'm getting to. You think, why is that? His most used play type is isolation back then in 2004-2005. He was in the 74th percentile in that, so he was very good at that. He was actually really damn good in isolation that year. So if your most used play type is isolation, which usually is the hardest type to, or use the hardest type of play to be good at, how could he be so poor offensively? And it's because he has 262 possessions of off-screen shots. And if you go and look at just go look up his basketball reference, this is where he would have, if Rip were to reach his potential and be in the argument with these guys, changing mentality would have to happen. Rip would take 16 shots a game for the Pistons. In 2004-2005, he took 15 shots in a game, per game. 2003-2004, 15 shots a game. 15 shots a game the year before that. 2005-2006, 16 and a half, 15. So he was hovering around 15, 16 nonstop. His mentality would have to switch because of those 15, 16 shots, 13.7, 15.0, 14.1, and 13.9 of them are all two-pointers. And we all know Rip. They weren't all layups. These were all running off mid-range screens, taking pull-up middies, taking long twos, taking contested twos, all of them. And listen, Rip was a great mid-range shooter. But not even Kevin Durant's taking 13 mid-range twos a game. Kevin Durant isn't taking, 10 mid-range twos a game. Like, that's not sustainable. If he were to be as good as I think he could be in today's NBA, he 100% would have to cut down on those twos and turn them into threes. Because Rip actually was a really good three-point shooter in the years that he actually tried to be. In 2005, 2006, he shot 46% from three, and that led to NBA. I believe that was the year I watched him in the three-point contest. Year after that, 34%. Year after that one, 44%, 37%. In his later years in the NBA, he shot 38%, 37%. So I fully believe that Rip would be a really good three-point shooter. But the problem was he only shot one of them a game. Every other shot was a mid-range shot. So if you're telling me that Ripper Hamilton is getting dropped into today's NBA and he's still taking 12, 13 mid-range shots, no, I think he probably would be worse than Tayshaun. I think teams probably wouldn't want him as much as Tayshaun. I think Tayshaun would be more valuable. But if you're telling me that Rip would get dropped in the NBA, instead of only shooting mid-range shots, he would be able to be one of the players who can shoot mid-range shots, but also can penalize you from deep. If he's one of those guys who can attack you in both areas, then he instantly becomes way more valuable. A guy who's able to kill you from beyond the arc and kill you from mid-range while also having the kind of conditioning he has. Like, he basically would be like Steph Curry, a mid-range version of Steph Curry that shoots threes too. the amount of conditioning and the amount of times how much he moved around and kept running and coming off screens, like that would be like what we see Steph Curry do. So that's what I'm saying. Like if he took away at least a little bit of the mid, I'm not saying he has to stop shooting mid ranges at all because that wouldn't make him valuable. But 13 twos a game, 14 twos a game, no, that's way too much. He wouldn't be able to sustain that in today's NBA, and teams wouldn't mess with that. So that player, I think he's worse than Tayshaun if he's dropped in today's NBA. If he's dropped in today's NBA and you're cutting that 14 to like 8 or 9 twos and replacing those 6 twos with threes, and he's shooting like 37 and 38% like I think he could, I think he would be incredibly valuable, and he'd be one of the top scoring off guards in the entire NBA. That's why I think about Rip. So that's why he's lower, because I'd have to, it depends if he changes his mentality, if he changes the way he wants to play, because if he doesn't, it's looking rough. So let me know what you guys think about that. I know you guys probably are going to be like, cool, we don't want to hear the numbers, blah, blah, but come on. You can't take 14 twos and almost all of them be mid-rangers in today's NBA. I don't even think DeMar does that. I haven't looked. But I think that would even be ridiculous for DeMar DeRozan to do. Like that's a little crazy. So yeah, that's where I'm at with Rip. So Rip is right after Tayshaun. I got Tayshaun, Rip, and now the third person that I have, and this one may shock you guys, and we're gonna save the top two obviously for last. This may shock you guys a little bit, but I'm gonna have to go with Ben Wallace at the 3. And the reason why I put Ben 3, and 100% he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't think that he's like the main one that should be in the Hall of Fame. He was amazing for when he played. And he 100% should be the one from the Going to Work squad. If one of them were to make the Hall of Fame, it's Ben Wallace. 100%. The concern that I have with Ben, and it's not too much of a concern because I still have him ahead of Rip, but the concern I have with Ben is that just how bad of an offensive player he was, would that be like okay in today's NBA? Like, would he get away with that in today's NBA? Defensively, I don't know if I have a little bit of questions because obviously I didn't grow up during the time. I have a little bit of knowledge. I watched like a bunch of videos analyzing Ben Wallace. I actually watched one last year when he was inducted to the Hall of Fame. It was titled, I think, I forget who it was, but it was one from one of the bigger YouTube channels. I don't want to say Coach Nick. I don't know if it was Coach Nick, but either way, it was talking about how good Ben Wallace was and what he actually was good at and how would he fare in today's NBA. And again, I was young. I didn't get to watch him in his prime as much. I have some memories. I do have an idea of who he was. I did watch a little bit, but I was really young. I have concerns with him defensively if he could switch on the perimeter consistently. Outside of that, I don't really. I think he still would be dominant defensively. I just would like to see that. It just really boils down to offense because, guys, he was not good offensively. Having your big man shoot around 45%, like in 2004, 2005, he shot 45%. In 2003, 2004, he shot 42% from the field. Like, and then 2007, 2008, even though that year doesn't count, he's way out of his prime. But a big man ever, even out of his prime, shooting 39% from the field is pretty crazy. So I think that would be incredibly interesting to see, especially also he shot like 40% from the free throw line. That is a concern. And that worries me about whether Ben would actually be able to. Would he be the same player? Would he be a worse player? Or would he be a better player? I don't know which one of those it would be. Would he be worse? I don't know. Would he be the same? I don't know. Would he be better? I don't know. I know if he got a little bit worse, I still think he'd be better than Rip if he got a little bit worse. But I can't sit here and say I think he would be absolutely better in this NBA because he just, I mean, one side of the argument could say he could simply be putting pressure on the rim because he was a lob threat, extremely athletic, and would dunk the ball. If he accepted that kind of role and just would do that, would he be good enough at that to where he would make up for it? Maybe. I know he was really good on putbacks. He did dunk the ball a lot on putbacks, so that would be valuable. But overall, just the lack of offensive touch and offensive skill concerns me a little bit. Even though I think he flashed some playmaking ability that maybe could be taken advantage of in today's NBA more than it was then. Either way, I think either, like I said, even if Ben got worse in today's NBA, if you dropped him here, I still have him above Rip and Tayshaun. I think maybe Tayshaun. I think Tayshaun at his like the best possible vision you could have for him in today's NBA, and Ben and Rip got worse, I think Tayshaun could leap these two. I think this is the most he could go, possibly. I think that's the highest he can go. After that, I don't think he gets higher. But even still, I don't envision Ben getting that worse in today's NBA to where he's worse than either of those two guys. But I don't think I can envision him getting better enough to where he's better than the two guys we haven't talked about yet, which is obviously Rasheed and Chauncey. So that's where I'm at. I got Tayshaun 5th, Rip 4th, Ben 3. Who do I have top 2? Who do you guys think I have top 2? Before you guys hear the answers, go in the comment section down below. Tell me who you guys think I'm going to go with. If you listen on the podcast platforms, go ahead and tweet at me who you guys thought I'd go with and who I actually went with and what your thoughts were. You guys will see that in the upcoming segment. But first, I had to tell you guys a little bit about another one of our sponsors, BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for our sports betting needs and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is a continuous source for our sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. BetOnline.net remains the best spot for our sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. And if you head over there, you'll see, obviously, while Summer League's going on, NBA Summer League. You want to get a head start in next season's NBA, you can see favorites for next year's best record, who's going to win the championship, who's going to be the MVP of next year, who's going to be the worst team in the league next year. You can get a head start on all those kind of things. You can also go over and check out the NFL season. It's coming around the corner. You can go be ready when college football's coming around, college basketball's coming around. You got tennis, everything you could possibly think of over at betonline.net. So make sure you head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about their trends and action today. BetOnline, where the game starts. So I want to thank you guys again for making the Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you have not already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast. I'd really appreciate it on our road to 5,000 subscribers. Continuing to show Locked On that we are the best and fastest growing fan base at the Locked On Network. All right, so you guys have seen Tayshaun at 5, Rip at 4, Ben at 3, and now we are left with Rasheed Wallace and Chauncey Billups. Now, I'll say this. I really think you could possibly go either way with this. I think you could go either way. I think these two guys, without a doubt, I think they separate themselves from these other three guys easily for guys that you think would be better in today's NBA and would be monsters in today's NBA. I think they separate themselves, no doubt, by far from the rest of the guys. And again, you can go either way, man. It was tough. It was tough picking one of these guys, but I had to pick one. So, coming in at second, who I think would be the best player in today's NBA from the Going to Work squad, I went with Rasheed Wallace. I think Sheed would be second. And again, you could go with either one of these guys. This is not to poo-poo Rasheed at all. Rasheed was arguably the most talented guy, the most skilled guy on that team. Arguably. You could make that argument. And in today's NBA, he would absolutely dominate. I have no doubt in my mind that he would be an utter monster in today's NBA. You go from his 2001, from his 2001 season to his 2008 season, Rasheed shot 35% from beyond the arc as a power forward / center on 4 attempts a game. Back then, that was insane. Back then, that was a great percentage. Back then, it was well above league average. Back then, it was tremendous. So if you put him in today's NBA with more spacing, better looks, possibly him even getting up more than 4 attempts, who knows what would happen. He was amazing. Rasheed's a great player. He had low post moves. He would be able to score in the post. He had a nice touch around the rim, a long wingspan. He would try to dunk everything. He could dunk everything if you wanted to. He could be an offensive utter force in today's NBA, like an utter force of a talent on the offensive end in today's NBA. And that's not even talking about his defense, where he would be just as impactful defensively as he was back then as he would be today. He probably would play the center position, and I think he would excel at it. I think he would be great at it. He would be tremendous. He would get a lot of blocks. He would be great on the help side. I think you probably would run drop coverage with him. I don't know if you'd run the switch scheme and have him just switching out on guards, But it wouldn't shock me if he could do that either. He was that talented. Rasheed was that talented. The only question with Rasheed, and it was the same question back then in his prime, would he want it enough? Now in Detroit, I think he turned that image around. I think he sacrificed, obviously, won a championship, and he turned that around. But even still, before Detroit, and obviously he sacrificed it in Detroit for a championship and for wins, so that's fine. But before Detroit, it was questions about whether he wanted it enough and could put it all together and be focused enough to really be that dominant force that he could have been consistently. So that's the one question with him. But outside of that, again, I want to make this clear. You could go either route here. This is not me trying to poo-poo at all Rasheed by putting him at 2. You could go either way. Rasheed would be amazing in today's NBA. Do I think he'd be a top 5 player? No. No, I don't think he'd be a top 5 player. Do I think he could possibly be a top 15 player in some seasons? Yes. I think Rasheed would be a top 15 player in some seasons. I think he could probably be all NBA player some seasons. He'd be up there fighting, especially with the way today's NBA runs. He'd be able to. Rasheed would be great. He would be utterly great. Don't mistake that. But I want to give time to who I have at number 1, and that's Chauncey Billups. I went with Chauncey because I don't think people truly understand just how historically great of a shooter Chauncey Billups was. I don't think people truly understand how insane of a shooter this man was. And earlier in the season, this past season, we had, I think James Edwards of The Athletic wrote an article saying that Sadiq was already the best three-point shooter in Pistons history. And I absolutely destroyed that. And I'm going to destroy that now. I'll continue to destroy it because that's absolutely not even close to true. Chauncey Billups, without a doubt, no one even close to touching him, is the best shooter in Pistons history. Chauncey Billups is one of the best shooters in the history of the NBA. In the history of the NBA. If Chauncey played in today's NBA, he's not just getting up 4.5, 5.2, 4.4, 5.0, 4.8. He's not just getting those type of that many threes up. You want to know how many threes he's getting up? He's getting close to 7, 8, 9 threes a game up. And he's probably shooting close to 40% on all of them, if not 40%. During his years in the NBA with the Pistons, let me read you this. 2002, 2003, 39% from deep on 5 attempts. 2003, 2004, 38% from deep. 2004, 2005, 43% from deep. 2005, 2006, 43% from deep. He had a down year in 2006, 2007, 34% from deep. Next year, 40%. Next year after that, 40%. Next year after that, 39%. Next year after that, 40%. Now we're getting out of his prime. Still out of his prime. Los Angeles Clippers, 38%. Out of his prime, 36%. He is one of the best shooters of all time. And I know percentages, just saying that out loud, isn't going to relay it enough to you guys to really try to understand how great of a shooter he would be. Let me read you this. This is his synergy chart from 2004, 2005. And we did this, by the way, already on an episode when we talked about is Sadiq the best shooter of all time. So if you guys want to go see how in-depth we go on there, it was a whole episode. We really dove into it. So if you guys want to see more of it, go check that episode out from earlier in the season. But there was nowhere that Chauncey could not shoot from. Spot ups. In 2004, 2005, he was in the 98th percentile as a spot up shooter. All jump shots, he was in the 95th percentile. As a post up scorer, as a guard, he was in the 94th percentile. That's not shooting, but that right there I think was noteworthy. That's kind of cool. Catch and shoot, 95th percentile. Unguarded, 96th percentile. Guarded catch and shoots, 90th percentile. All jump shots off the dribble, 94th percentile. He could shoot, catch and shoot. He could shoot coming off screens. He could shoot coming off the dribble. He could catch and shoot. He could do all of it. And not just okay. He was doing it, all of those things, at an absolute elite historic level. All of them. It wasn't like, okay, he's decent at these. If you add it all together, that's a good shooter. No, he was elite at each type of shot. He would be dominant. He would be multiple time All-Star, multiple time All-NBA player in today's NBA. He would be so much more appreciated in today's NBA. He would be basically, you know how Kyle Lowry gets like, you know, appreciated so much in today's NBA. I don't think he would be appreciated as much back then. Chauncey would be like Kyle Lowry on steroids. That's what he would be. Supercharged. He would be supercharged Kyle Lowry and would get all kinds of props in today's NBA. Multi-time All-NBA member. He had 3 in his career. I think he would have like 6 or 7 in today's NBA. He would be in discussions outside of Steph Curry for best point guard in the NBA. That's how good I think Chauncey would be. And that's just me talking about his shooting. He was a great playmaker, a tremendous leader, one of the best leaders you'll come around. Tremendous leader, tremendous playmaker, and one of the best defensive point guards in the entire NBA. He was 2-time all defense. He was at the front, or when I say at the front, I mean like towards the top of the key, literally a part of their defense. Not the head of their defense, obviously, was Ben, but in the front of one of the best defenses, if not the best defense ever. All while being one of the best shooters we have ever seen in the entire NBA in a time where people didn't shoot threes and it wasn't a heavy emphasis on it. If you dropped him in today's NBA, good luck. Good luck. Chauncey would be the best player from that 2004 team. He would be the best player in today's NBA. I think Chauncey would be a borderline top 10 player in the NBA easily. That's how I think. I don't think people like. I know I sound like I'm ranting at this point on the podcast. I know I sound like I'm ranting, and I apologize for that. But I don't think people like understand just how great and how historic of a shooter Chauncey was. Like, he wasn't just like a great shooter. He is one of the best shooters of all time. Literally. If you put him in today's NBA, good luck, man. Seriously. And he drew free throws. These are the years of him in Detroit. 4.9 free throws, 5.9 free throws, 4.8 free throws, 6.4 free throws, 6.2 free throws, 5.6, 5.8, 7.0. He would be an offensive force. He could draw free throws. He could shoot free throws as one of the best free throw shooters ever as well. Off the dribble, pull up threes, pull up middies, could do it all. Post up smaller guards, he could do it. Could he run an offense? Hell yeah, he could do that. Could he play make for others? Hell yeah, he could do that. Oh, but what about the defensive end? Oh, yep, one of the best point guard defenders there will be. Chauncey, I think he's not going. I don't think he'll probably get into the Hall of Fame. I think he's a Hall of Fame level player who sacrificed numbers for a team that won a lot of games and it wasn't appreciated in an era of basketball that didn't emphasize on what he did best. Chauncey would be the best player. Out of all those guys on that team, he would be the best player in today's NBA. In my mind, without a doubt. Without a doubt. So, that's how I feel. You guys got a little bit of a rant from me about Chauncey at the end. I feel very strongly about Chauncey. If there was a player I could just take and drop into the Pistons like roster today, I don't care if they got Cade and Jaden Ivey. I'd take prime Chauncey and I trade Jaden Ivey. Like that's how I feel about Chauncey. I don't want to go on another rant, but there you go. I have Chauncey number 1, Rasheed number 2, Ben number 3, Rip number 4, and Tayshaun number 5. Let me know what your guys' order is in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at KukaHill. I'd really appreciate hearing from you guys. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. I'd also really appreciate that. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there, my goodness. I'll see you guys in the next podcast. Peace out, everybody.